never thought a simple fishing trip could turn into the craziest HOA battle of my life. It was a calm Saturday morning, the sun barely rising above the peaceful lake behind my land. That lake was the reason I bought this property in the first place. Quiet, isolated, and perfect for early morning fishing. I grabbed my rod, backpack, and coffee and walked down to the water like I'd done 100 times before. But that morning, I didn't even get the hook in the water before hearing the sound of tires crunching on gravel. It was the HOA president, Marilyn, the neighborhood Karen, with a master's degree in being a menace. She rolled down her window, sunglasses on like she was in some detective movie, and shouted, "You can't fish here. This is community water." I calmly explained, like I'd explained before, that the lake touched my property. My deed even included partial water rights. But she wasn't having it. She started taking pictures of me, threatening fines, threatening illegal action. She even said she would call the police. I laughed because I thought she was bluffing. But 10 minutes later, 2 patrol cars rolled up behind her silver SUV. The officer stepped out and asked me what I was doing. I told them the truth. I was fishing on water connected to my property line. They checked my license. They checked my ID. Everything was clean. One of them shrugged and said, "We don't see any crime here." But Marilyn wouldn't stop. She kept yelling over them, pointing at me like I was some villain. She demanded they remove me from her lake. She pushed her rules so hard that one officer finally said, "Sir, can you just leave for today? It'll calm things down." I put my fishing rod back in the bag, furious but silent. Because in that moment, while Marilyn stood there smirking like she'd won, something switched inside me, a cold, calm decision that would end this HOA nonsense once and for all. I was done playing by their rules. I was going to beat them using something they couldn't control. Ownership. That night, I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and started digging. I wanted to know exactly who owned the lake. Turns out the lake wasn't actually owned by the HOA. It belonged to a private investment group that bought it decades ago and forgot about it. They only collected small water rights fees from nearby neighborhoods. In other words, the lake wasn't protected. It wasn't a community property. It was available. I found the contact info for the land group and emailed them. Not expecting anything to happen fast, I went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to a reply saying, "We are open to discussing a sale." My heart almost stopped. I called the number instantly. A man with a deep, bored voice answered. We talked for 20 minutes. He said the lake wasn't profitable anymore, maintenance cost too much, and no one in the HOA had ever bothered to inquire about buying it. "So, you're willing to sell?" I asked. "We'd be happy to get rid of it." 2 days later, I met him in person at a small office outside the city. He placed a thin folder in front of me. The documents for the lake, the land around it, the rights, everything. The price? Lower than what most people pay for a new truck. I signed every paper with a smile. I didn't just buy the lake. I bought the entire shoreline, Zufälling. I bought full rights to every inch of water. I bought the thing the HOA thought they controlled. And as I walked out of that office, ownership papers in hand, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to end the HOA playtime forever. The ban hit the neighborhood harder than I expected. Within a week, families who used to bring their kids to the water were turned away. Joggers who used the shoreline trail suddenly found it closed. People who launched kayaks were met with signs saying "a private property, no access." And every single sign had my name on it. The HOA tried fighting back. They threatened lawsuits. They sent letters. They tried calling the previous lake owners. They even attempted to force the city to intervene, but every attempt failed because legally the entire lake was mine. One day I saw Marilyn and 3 board members standing at the edge of the water screaming at a deputy, demanding he remove my signs. He shook his head and pointed at the paperwork. I overheard him telling her, "You brought this on yourself." After that, things got worse for the HOA. Residents started turning against them. People were furious that the lake got closed because the board picked the wrong fight. They blamed Marilyn for pushing too far, for calling the cops on me, for trying to control something they didn't own. The HOA meetings turned into shouting matches. Several board members resigned. Marilyn's power started collapsing. One day, I caught her standing at the waterline, staring at the lake she once thought she controlled. She looked defeated, tired, smaller than ever. It was poetic. All she had to do was leave me alone while I fished. But she wanted a war, and I won it without lifting a finger. Months passed, and life became wonderfully peaceful. I fished whenever I wanted. I kayaked at sunset. I enjoyed the lake with zero interference. Then something unexpected happened. The entire neighborhood voted to dissolve the HOA. Too many people were fed up. Too many were tired of fines, rules, and power plays. Marilyn tried to fight it, but it was over. The HOA shut down permanently. A few weeks later, several neighbors came to my door and apologized on behalf of the community. They explained they never wanted trouble. They were just stuck under the HOA constant pressure. I accepted their apology. But there was one moment that sealed everything. One evening, I saw Marilyn herself walking toward my gate. She looked older, exhausted, and finally humble. She apologized. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, sincerely. She admitted she let power get to her head. I told her something simple. I never wanted revenge. I just wanted peace. She nodded and walked away. Her chapter closed. The lake became a place of freedom again, but on my terms. Not the HOA. Not some boards. Mine. And whenever I cast my fishing line into the water, I feel the calm satisfaction of knowing one thing. If someone tries to control you with fake rules, hit them where it hurts most. Ownership. Because there's no HOA rule strong enough to beat the power of a signed deed.